This next story concerns Melissa. In order to cheat on her test, she created her own language so that each symbol would represent a letter. After memorizing the whole alphabet in her new language, she would write out the answers on the back of her binder. When the test came around and they had to clear their desks, she put the notebook on the floor and covered it with some papers. When the teacher wouldn't look, she would nudge the things on top of it over so that she could read it. If the teacher came by and saw it, they assumed it was gibberish and didn't question her. Later on, I did explain that if you're so desperate to cheat that you would literally make up a language to do so, then you may be better off, just studying the damn topic.
This one time, Melissa was working the register window at a McDonald's when she had an older couple use the drive-thru. They ordered a McMuffin and a coffee, and the couple pulled up to her window. They had a coupon to make the McMuffin only cost $1, which was the same price as the coffee. "But I thought it was only $1, the lady complained after Melissa told her the price. Melissa died a little inside and explained to her,
Yes, the sandwich is only $1, but so is the coffee, so it's $2 together.
The lady continued on complaining that she didn't get it. Melissa mimed a coffee in one hand and a McMuffin in the other.
This one costs $1 and this one costs $1. So, if you put them together, you've got something that costs $2.
Melissa was trying her best. The lady still didn't get it though, so the two argued fruitlessly while the lady's husband was laughing his ass off in the passenger seat. He eventually reached over her and gave another $1, all while she complained that she couldn't do it and that he was wasting her money.
When Honeybits was in high school, her bus driver had a reputation for being someone you did not want to mess with. He was always so angry that the students nicknamed him Pitbull. If anyone made so much as a sound during the drive, he would stop the bus and scream at the person who did it. One time a student got on board and started making a lot of noise, which made Pitbull instantly rage. He screamed at the student and threw them from the moving bus. Nobody dared to piss off Pitbull after that, and Honeybits could not wait to get off that bus at the end of every day.
Gogak's science teacher decided to have the entire class do some community service one year. Gogak actually thought it was a pretty good idea, but the teacher split the class into halves. Half the class got to go to the Humane Society and help puppies. Gogak's half got to go pick up sticks off the ground. 3 hours a day, in rain and cold. Not only was it miserable, it was also pointless. The sticks were all back the next day because, nature.
One morning, Princess Proton's mom said she could go play while she made breakfast. Princess Proton went upstairs and snuck into her mom's room. Princess Proton then looked into her dad's drawer and took out 5 condoms. She was only 7 years old at the time, so she thought they were balloons. And because she thought they were balloons, she blew them up and made a store outside. She was standing out by the sidewalk selling condom balloons for 5 cents. Hey, that's a hell of a deal. Incidentally, Princess Proton's neighbors never came over to her house ever again.
One day, Ladybot traveled to an art convention in Dublin, Ireland. She was a manga artist and attended them often for inspiration. One morning, she went to a diner to eat breakfast. She sat at a table and ordered her food. Without realizing, Ladybot had been staring at the waiter, and he noticed this. When he brought her food, he delivered the check with his number written on it. They ended up texting for months before officially dating. They are now married and very happy, although his thick accent is still hard to understand.
One night, Mimi's boyfriend promised her that he wouldn't drink any tequila at their anniversary party, but he ended up drinking tequila when she wasn't looking. The next morning, he was very drunk and woke Mimi up saying, "Let's go break some fucking tequila bottles, you hot bitch." Being very sleepy, she just said,
What?
He replied, "Bitch, let's go chuck some balls at that truck. Oh yeah." Her boyfriend picked her up, threw her over his shoulder and ran outside. He carried her to a nearby driveway of some random person. He said, "Throw the bottle, motherfucker." Mimi said,
Fuck that.
She jumped off his back and ran like hell. He yelled, "You ain't little girlfriend of mine if you don't understand the tequila life." With no clothes on and at 5:30 in the morning, Mimi ran back to her house.
Civil Spider was in a hospital once where he saw a guy just walk around in circles at random. After a few minutes of that, he went over to his wife and scratched his butt for several minutes. After he got tired of that, he put his hand up to his nose and smelled it. He did this several times. Eventually, he turned around and saw that Civil Spider was looking, so he walked a few steps away and did it again.
Dolan's school has a weird rule where everybody with glasses has to wear contacts. They said it started when bullies were pushing a kid around, trying to take his glasses to try them on. The principal walked in on that happening and immediately issued the rule a week later. Any kids found with glasses on were given donated contacts if they couldn't afford them.
When Ghost Toast was a freshman at college, he was walking through the school when a senior walked up to him. They were in a sports club together, so he didn't want to just tell him to go away. He started talking about how he wanted to move to New York and become a millionaire. Ghost Toast was answering all of his questions and wondering why this guy was suddenly treating him like his best friend. He went on about his future for a good 5 minutes. Suddenly, he looked at Ghost Toast for 30 seconds, not saying anything. Then, without looking at him, he said, "Dude, wrong person," and ran away. Ah, that's so awkward.
When she was in first grade, Andy shit herself. She tried to hide it, but another kid in her class, Ramona, asked, "Ew, why do you smell like poop?" Andy said, "It's a new perfume called Poopery." Of course, everyone knew it was a lie and kept saying, "Andy pooped her pants, Andy pooped her pants." In an attempt to stop the ridicule, Andy said, "It was Ramona who pooped in my pants." Nobody believed her. To this day, Andy is still called Shit Spray, although now she and Ramona are best friends.
When Danger Dolan was in 10th grade, him and his friends were at the computer doing their essays, until his crush came along and asked for help removing a spider. Dolan immediately ran to help her out and acted cocky about it. She thought he was so cool not to be afraid, even though he secretly has a bad case of arachnophobia. As they got into her classroom, he asked her,
Where is it?
She screamed, "Right there!" As Dolan looked to see where she was pointing, he saw a big, black, hairy spider jump into his face. He passed out to the floor, face first, and as he got back up, he was being cleaned up by the school nurse. He asked,
Oh, what happened?
She told him that he was out for about an hour and a half. Dolan was confused about what happened, and she told him that he might have hyperventilated and passed out. Luckily, he killed the spider with his face when he fell. He vomited everywhere, but luckily, his crush thought he was super cool for killing it, even though he fainted.
After Melissa had gotten out of classes for the day, she went to a cafe near campus before going home because she was really hungry and couldn't wait. The cafe gave a student discount when an ID was shown, so she did. The man working at the register got angry and tore the ID in half. He yelled at her, calling her a privileged cunt and telling her to leave or else he would call the cops. Melissa didn't understand what was happening because she'd been to that cafe multiple times and nobody ever said anything when she gave her ID. She started crying and apologizing, then started to leave when the manager came out of the back and stopped her. She scolded the employee for cursing and trying to force her to leave. A couple of people she went to school with happened to be there and comforted her while glaring at the employee. The manager told the man they accepted student IDs and that he had no right to refuse someone. He was fired and told to leave for his inappropriate behavior, and Melissa got her lunch free of charge.
Moji went to a restaurant with his friends one day. One of his friends brought his 5 or 6-year-old kid. Things were pretty chill until the little dude looked straight into his dad's eyes and said, "I'm going to say the A-word." The kid's parents were concerned and tried to hush the kid before he could start spewing racial slurs, but they were too late. The kid took his shirt off and started screaming, "Nipple, nipple, nipple!" While running around the restaurant. His parents were both relieved and very embarrassed that their child was screaming nipple in a burger joint. Emoji thinks that it's better than the actual N-word.
On the last day of school, Snoopy's school had a huge water gun fight. Snoopy had been looking forward to it all week, but she was a bit worried about her overprotective new boyfriend. During the fight, her boyfriend ordered her to stay behind him and acted like her bodyguard. He brought in the biggest water gun money could buy and was waiting to use it on anyone who went near his girl. Suddenly, a sneaky kid came up behind them and blasted Snoopy with cold water. Snoopy laughed, but her boyfriend got really mad and chased the guy across campus. When he caught him, he pinned the guy down and shot him over 10 times in the face at extremely close range. Snoopy and a group of kids stood there in shock as the kid screamed for help. When Snoopy's boyfriend finally let the kid go, he had serious bruises all over his face and back. It was at that point that Snoopy decided she wanted to be single.
When he was in the 8th grade, Salty Squid's ex-girlfriend got angry with him when he broke up with her. Later that day, she sent him a message saying that he had to come to her place. When he got there, his ex-girlfriend pulled out her dad's gun and tried to shoot him. The bullet hit the wall instead, and Salty Squid ran outside and into the woods. She ran after him, yelling, "Why do you hide? We can have fun." He called the cops, who came and arrested her. Salty Squid never saw her again.
So Sid was walking home from a pond near where he lived a few years ago when he noticed someone driving down a dead-end road. After a minute or two, he came back the other way and asked how to get to the strip club the next town over. After Sid gave him the directions, even though he was too young to go there, the guy had mentioned that his wife was performing that night. Sid didn't know how to respond after that, but just managed to say, "Good luck," and then he drove away.
When Zaraganba was 6, he was playing quietly while his babysitter, who was actually his grumpy uncle, was sitting in the next room watching TV. Suddenly, he heard his sister crying at the top of her lungs and assumed she had fallen over or something. His uncle stormed into the room and just assumed they were having a fight and slapped Zaraganba as hard as he could while screaming at him. Zaraganba was a quiet kid and kept telling his uncle that he did nothing wrong. Of course, this made his uncle even madder, and he slapped Zaraganba again. After a few hours, his uncle found Zaraganba hiding in a corner and gave him a $5 bill as an apology. Gee, thanks, Uncle.
Gurgak's brother once got salty at him for using his Xbox controller, so he told Gurgak that he needed it right then. When Gurgak told his brother to wait, he said, "Need it right now, because if I don't play my game, then I have to use someone else's." When Gurgak asked his brother what was wrong with his other controller, he said it was the wrong color for his game. It was black, and the one Gurgak had was white.
When Dolan was 14 and his older brother Zaraganba was 18, Dolan asked him to take him to a firework tent since it was almost July 4th. He agreed and took him to the nearest tent, which was about 10 minutes away and next to a tattoo store. When they got there, he just let Dolan go off by himself. When Dolan finished looking at the fireworks and Zaraganba bought some, they headed back to the car. Just then, a guy walked out of the tattoo store and said to Dolan that he would pay him $50 to kiss his tattoo. Since he needed to pay Zaraganba back for the fireworks, plus being the absolute dumbass he was, Dolan did it. The man pulled $50 out of his wallet and handed it to Dolan. Then he ran back to the store yelling at someone, "I told you! I told you!" Dolan looked back at Zaraganba, who had a look of horror as if Dolan just kissed the troll's butt. He then pushed Dolan to the car saying,
"You're the stupidest and nastiest person I know."
Dolan still thinks it was worth it.
When MKLM was in his first year of high school, he went on a field trip with the whole class. He already started noticing a girl in his class, so he thought he could impress her with something that hurts him because she would laugh if he hurt himself. MKLM and his crush were in a tree with a few other people, and he thought,
"She would probably laugh if I fell."
So he did. The fall was not that high, as it was around 2 to 3 meters. She laughed, then called him an idiot. MKLM was still happy that she laughed, even though they never got together.
Now, I have my own YouTube channel, and of course, I am involved here on Planet Dolan. It's great. But you see, when you start putting your name out there on the internet, sometimes you get a few creepy people that send you some pretty creepy messages. Pretty much what happened is one guy sent me a private message, and he said, "Hey Nixium, I've been trying to track down where you live for a while now, and I've managed to narrow down the city where you are. Do you by any chance live on this street?" Now, I didn't live on that street, but that street was pretty damn close to where I lived, and it really was creepy. I just replied and told the guy, "No, that's not my street," and to stop looking for me, and I also told him that if he ever does find my house and come to my door, it will be the worst mistake of his entire life.
When Spincess was little, she had a babysitter that didn't know how to deal with kids. One night, everything was going as planned, but then the teenage babysitter decided to have a tickle war. She pinned Spincess down on her bed and tickled her, even though Spincess was pleading with her to stop. Spincess was laughing so hard that she got to the point where she couldn't breathe. She started coughing, and the babysitter patted her on the back. Spincess then projectile vomited everywhere. The babysitter stood there in shock, completely covered in vomit. All she could say was, whoops.
Andy sat across from her crush, Adam, who had the nickname Woodpecker in art class. She doesn't even remember what they were talking about, but she was trying to be a little bit flirty. He called her a tree, so she said, "Hey, Woodpecker, I would love for you to eat me." Once she said that, Andy immediately knew she shouldn't have, and their friends started laughing his ass off. She turned red, hiding her face by putting her head down. Adam stared at her for a minute, wide-eyed, then started laughing.
Pandora's sister always pestered her for advice ever since they were young. One time, her sister kept whining about an earache she had and wanted some advice on how to get rid of it. Annoyed, Pandora suggested that she should pee in a cup, then pour the warm piss into her aching ear. Sure enough, her sister did just that. Afterwards, she said that it worked. Pandora thought that her sister's earache was caused by a buildup of earwax, and the warm piss helped loosen it. Though probably not bad advice, the thought of pouring piss into one's ear still doesn't sit well with Pandora.
Dolan once booby-trapped his computer. If anybody pulled out his chair, it would set off a music disc player that played Rick Astley. Eventually, when he was taking a shower, he heard the music start playing. He came out and he found that his mother was trying to vacuum his room and had pulled his chair out from underneath his desk. She wasn't happy that it was booby-trapped, so he told her that if she didn't like it, she shouldn't go in his room. He then later booby-trapped his computer mouse so that if it was moved without being deactivated, it would shut off his computer tower. He might be a bit paranoid, but who wants their parents rummaging around on their computer? Who knows what they might find?
A month after she graduated from college, Pandora was living in an apartment when a guy moved into her building. She knew who he was because she noticed that he had been following her for a while. A week after he moved into the building, the guy snuck into Pandora's apartment in the middle of the night. He crept into her bedroom and shook her awake. Once she was awake, he proposed. Pandora slapped him across the face and screamed, "No, I'm not going to marry you, you idiotic fucking c-." Since that night, Pandora keeps a gun next to her bed. She also doesn't plan on getting married anytime soon.
Spincess was at a dollar store when she saw someone try to get money back for a bag of Cheetos. His reasoning was that the bag contained one teensy burnt Cheeto that he had with him, but the rest, naturally, he had already eaten. The store clerk tried to explain to the man that if he had any problems, he should call the number on the back of the bag. The man responded completely rationally and completely normal and began to yell profanities at the store clerk. It didn't take long for the irate customer to get so mad that he started calling the clerk racial slurs. And at that point, Spincess and her buddies, who ironically were buying Cheetos themselves, got angry and tried to fight for the store clerk. The man saw he was outnumbered, and he stamped out of the store, cussing at everybody that he passed.
Ladybot was a pretty good kid, never got into drugs, sex, or any other unsavory things. The only really bad thing she remembered doing as a kid was in her junior year of high school. She had this teacher who failed her on every test and every quiz. She even caught him mismarking right questions as wrong ones, so on the last day of school after she left his class, Ladybot and a friend poured concrete down his gas tank. The only reason they got away with this was for two reasons. One, a kid a week prior in the same class said to the teacher after he failed him on a test, "You're gonna regret that." Two, all of the school's security cameras were down because of a lightning bolt hitting the school. Not only did he think it was the other kid in the class, but he had no way of proving who did it. So everybody got off scot-free, even though he swore up and down saying that if he ever found out who did it, he was calling the cops. The cops never came to Ladybot's doorstep.
One time, Andy and her neighbors went to a restaurant for dinner. It was a normal dinner, but her neighbors brought their two kids. One was a normal teenager, while the other was a 10-year-old who brought his fidget spinner collection with him. Every time he spun one of his fidget spinners, he would dab. The dabbing began to get on everyone's nerve after a while. When his parents stepped out for a little bit, Andy told him that 10 years olds shouldn't dab. He asked why, and Andy told him that it offended people because dabbing was invented by Adolf Hitler. She pulled up a picture of Hitler doing the Nazi salute on her phone and showed it to him. To her surprise, he believed her and put away his fidget spinner. He stayed quiet for the rest of the night.
When my brother was a teenager, he was babysitting a friend's child when he had to change its diaper. For some odd reason, he became fascinated with the idea of trying on one of the diapers. Typical. With no surprise, the diaper didn't fit. However, he made a makeshift one and would wear them like that until inevitably he bought his first box of adult diapers. And he's been hooked on them ever since, cause he's a fucking weirdo. He doesn't need diapers, he wears them purely for the mental and physical comfort. He looked it up online and was surprised to find that he wasn't the only one who enjoyed it. There is a whole community of adult babies out there. And hey look, as long as he doesn't force his adult baby lifestyle on me, he can do whatever the fuck he wants.
In 7th grade, Snoopy dated a boy whose father worked on a farm. She supposed that he probably spent a lot of time on the farm himself. One time she went skating with him, and he said, "The glimmer on ice is nothing compared to your eyes." In response, Snoopy said, "I bet you're not used to this ice after working on that farm so much because you're too hot." Other than the line not making any sense, little did she know that his mother and father were divorced, and he didn't see his father much. She apologized and they just laughed it off, trying to get past the awkward moment as quickly as possible.
When Spincis was in middle school, her friend Honeybits had a birthday party at a bowling alley. After the cake and festivities, they got ready to bowl, but some kid decided to grab a ball and throw it down the lane. When they told him he couldn't start yet, the boy decided to run down the lane in his socks to catch the ball. Needless to say, he slipped and slid more than halfway down the lane. They had to walk along the gutter to get him. He was almost his own bowling ball.
Tolop and one of her friends were walking to her car one night when they ran into a guy they had never met before. He was trying hard to get into her car, but it was locked. Tolop asked the guy what the fuck he thought he was doing. It turned out that he had been sleepwalking, so Tolop let him into her car where he could finish sleeping. After that night, they became friends. Number 1 was submitted by Small Doggo 234. One day, Froggy was browsing in a store when she saw a kid with his parents. The kid was hitting his parents with a dildo. Each time he hit them with it, he made a jolly sound. Froggy watched as the kid continued hitting his parents for at least half an hour when she decided to talk to him. When she asked him for his number, he wrote it down on the dildo. They're still best friends.
When Pringle was in junior high, he saw one hell of a graduation prank. A group of seniors had set up a huge live-action game of Mario Kart in the hall. They put on roller skates and tutus and tied balloons to themselves like they were in a Mario Kart's battle mode. Instead of shooting each other with turtle shells, they used silly string, banana peels, and bouncy balls, which they collected by running into students dressed as item boxes. This sounds like the funnest shit in the whole fucking world. Anyway, I'm gonna keep reading. The game was complete chaos, but everyone had fun. Unfortunately, when the school's Nintendo-hating principal found out about it, he suspended everyone involved and stopped the seniors from going on stage at graduation. I don't know who you are, principal. I don't even know if you actually exist, but I fucking hate you.